Alright, so I had a lot of video requests for the inline hydro handbrake setup on my YXZ. Now, I'm not the greatest at video tutorials, so bear with me, and I'm going to try to keep this as short as I can. It's kind of a lot of information. So to start, parts, all the parts you're going to need. At the end of the video, I'm going to put a complete part sheet with all the numbers and everything. That way you don't have to go back in video and listen to me. But to start, you're going to need the handbrake. You can get this on Amazon. For this one, I've used this on 3 other builds. It's never let me down. And plus, I like the look of it. It fits really well with the Packard shifter. Then you're going to need a master cylinder. This is the Wilwood GS Compact. You're going to need brake lines. These are -3AN Fragola brake lines, 36 inches long, 90 on one end, straight on the other. You need 2 of those. One for the supply, one for the discharge. You're going to need a 3/8, I believe that is 3/8 by 24 Banjo bolt. Then you're going to need a 10mm Banjo fitting to a 3AN. And then back here, you're going to need let me get my little list here. It's a Wilwood 7/16 by 20 male to a 3AN male. Then finally, you're going to need brake fluid. This is Castrol SRF. I highly recommend you siphon all the factory brake fluid out and you refill everything with this. Brake fade is not fun, and when you're sliding around with a handbrake, using your foot brake, using your handbrake, you're going to heat the brakes up and you can get brake fade. Brake fade's fucking scary. And you're also going to need a 5/16 by 24 right hand heim joint. The master cylinder does not come with one. So where you're going to start, you're going to pull your seat out. You're going to pull the side cover off, pull all your trim, everything out of the way so you can access all this. The factory handbrake is going to be sitting in here, mounted here and here. Pull those bolts out, your handbrake will lift up, and then you can disconnect your cable, which is right here. I left mine in there until I get a chance to pull it all out. Disconnect the cable, handbrake will come out. Oh, and there's a little wire connector you got to pull out too. Once your handbrake's out of the way, we're ready to start assembling this. It definitely helps to mount your master cylinder to your handbrake before you put all this in there, because it sucks trying to mount this to this while it's in. So take your master cylinder, mount it to your handbrake housing. Once that's together, slide this sucker in. Now, it's really hard to see this, but on this part of your frame, if you follow this down all the way to the right, there's a small hole right there. You see that bolt's right there? Originally, that's for a clip that holds your wire harness up on the frame. I popped the clip out, zip tied the wire harness to the side, and I used that bolt hole as the front mounting point. Now the material here is kind of thin. It's not a concern to me. We don't need downward pressure. We need horizontal pressure, and it's completely fine for that. For the second mounting point, I used the bottom factory mounting hole for the factory e-brake. I drilled a hole straight from there. Obviously, I lifted this to where I got the angle I want, marked it, drilled a hole all the way through the side of this handbrake, and then I used a bolt and a big washer to sandwich it up against the frame. So essentially, we got a bolt there, bolt up there, and this thing is rock solid. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so now we have our master cylinder and our handbrake mounted in place. We gotta start looking at plumbing. Alright, I had to walk over here to the driver's side, but somewhere right in this area, give or take, there's a union. It's a 10mm brake union that leads from the front of the master cylinder all the way to the rear brakes. That's what we're tying into. I'll see if I can get a good picture or video of it. Right there. So, those are both 10mm, and what you're going to do is you're going to either drop your skid plate or pull the driver's seat out, pull your floor pan out. I wasn't doing all that. I dropped the skid plate and I did everything from the bottom. But you're going to separate the union. One thing you want to do, pull out all your brake fluid, because the minute you separate that union, all that brake fluid is going to drain all over the floor and all over you. There's nothing you can do about that, but you can at least minimize the amount draining by draining that first. So once you have your union separated, you're going to take Here we go. Our adapters. This is our first one, our female to male. There's the info. And then our male to male. The female coupler is going to be what's mounted to the frame. That's what we're going to tie this to. It's a 10mm inverted flare. Both of them are. Mount this into your coupler, and then you're going to take your hose, your 3AN side of your hose, onto this. Then you're going to take your brake line that goes to the back, kind of wiggle it out of the way a little bit. That's going to be your male fitting. We're going to take our female. So your steel line that goes up like this and is now just loose, mount that into the female end of this. And you're going to take your second brake line, 3AN, and mount it to this. So now we have the bottom hooked up. We have two loose brake lines. The one coming from the female coupler, which is the supply from your master cylinder. Take that brake hose, route it however you want. Let's see if I can show you the way I routed them. Essentially they're, man, it's hard to see. Anyways, they're wrapped up there, and then one goes around to the back side of this transmission. The one coming from the master cylinder is your supply. Supply goes into the back right here of your master cylinder. So now supply hose comes up, that's my 90 onto my 3N adapter right here, and tighten it up. You definitely want to push this all the way over, otherwise you won't be able to get your switches to clear. So now we need our discharge right here, which goes to the back of the brakes. That's our hardline one we did going to the back. Take that hose, route it all the way up to the back side of the trans, and we're going to mount it onto our Banjo bolt right here. So again, this is a 10mm hole Banjo bolt to a 3N adapter, 3N brake line. Okay, now you're plumbed up. Make sure everything's tight. Now we got to go on to the fun part, bleeding the brakes. Alright, so bleeding the brakes with a hydro handbrake is a super pain in the ass if you don't have another person to help you. So if you can, if you have the ability, enlist the help of another person to help you for 20-30 minutes. You can do it alone, but it's not pleasant and it takes forever. But you're going to start, fill it, take your cap off, leave it off. You're going to fill this up with your Castrol SRF brake fluid. Then you're going to start in the back right corner of the car. You always start the furthest from the master cylinder, which is back right. You're going to pop your little cover off, pop a clear hose onto this and into your water bottle. This is going to catch your brake fluid. And you're going to take your little wrench, put it on here. So your partner's job is, while you're opening and closing your brake bleeder, they're operating the brake pedal and the handbrake. While your brake bleeder is closed, whenever you get ready, your partner is going to first push the foot brake all the way to the floor as far as you can, then pull the handbrake back as far as they can. They're going to say go. At that point, you're going to open your brake bleeder, crack it open, brake fluid and bubbles, whatever air is in the line, is going to come out. Okay. As soon as that happens, your partner is going to lose pressure in their master cylinder. What's going to happen here is the handbrake is going to go all the way down to the floor. They're going to keep putting pressure and pull it all the way down until it stops. Once that stops, the brake pedal is going to lose pressure. It's going to go all the way down to the floor. Once they have both the handbrake and the brake pedal down to the floor, they say stop. That's when you'll close your brake bleeder and they will release the handbrake and then release the foot pedal.
Okay. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Then, once you're ready to start again, repeat the steps over and over. Foot brake, handbrake, crack the bleeder, handbrake goes all the way down, foot brake goes all the way down. They say stop, you close your bleeder, lift, lift. And you're going to keep doing that over and over and over until you get no more air, no more bubbles out of the back of that bleeder. An important thing to note, while you're bleeding these brakes, you are pulling fluid out of the system, meaning you are losing your level in your reservoir. So either you back there or your partner here needs to periodically come up here and glance and see your level. If it starts getting low, you need to refill it, because if this goes empty and you're still bleeding the brakes, you're going to suck air into all this and you're back to square one starting over. So watch your level in your reservoir, very important. Once you are no longer getting any bubbles in the clear hose, every time you press and bleed the brakes, it's only fluid, you're done. Tighten up the bleeder, put the cap on it, you're done at that side. Now it's time to move on to the second furthest away from the master cylinder, driver's side back tire. Repeat all those same steps until, again, you're getting no more bubbles, and once you're done at that, lock it down, cap it, you're good. At this point, you should be starting to get a lot of pressure in your brake pedal and your handbrake, but not all of it. You still got to bleed the front. Then you're going to go to the way from the third furthest away from the master cylinder, passenger front. Same thing. The only difference with the front, your partner is not going to really see any difference in the handbrake. Meaning, they're going to push the foot brake down, and they're going to pull the handbrake. But while you crack this bleeder open and let the pressure out, the handbrake isn't going to do shit. The brake pedal is going to go all the way to the floor. So once the brake pedal is all the way down, they're going to tell you to stop, close your bleeder, and repeat the process over and over and over until all the bubbles are out. Then the driver's side, same thing. Repeat all the process till the bubbles are out. Keep an eye on your fluid. Done. Cap it. Cap it. Alright, so your brake system's completely bled. You have a firm handbrake, firm brake pedal. Awesome. Couple things to note. Handbrake is only going to lock the rear brakes. It's taking supply from your front master cylinder and forcing it to the back brake lines. Your foot brake still operates all four corners of your car. When you're not using this handbrake and you're driving your car like normal, everything operates normally. You hit this brake, all four brakes are going to apply. It's still taking brake pressure and sending it to all four units. Essentially what's happening is it's pushing it out of that master cylinder through our hoses in the inlet and out the outlet. This is acting like just a pass-through at this point. So one thing that kind of freaks people out the first time they feel it on an inline hydro setup. You have two master cylinders working against each other in the same unit, same system. Well, I go into a corner and I pull my handbrake, and then I apply my foot brake. If I push hard enough on my foot brake, I'm going to feel it in my hand, on my handbrake. And it's going to force my hand all the way up. Right there, you see that? That's completely normal. This is going to put more pressure into your supply, and it's going to force your hand back up until it stops. Once it stops, you're all foot brake up to that point. It's completely normal. It's not going to hurt anything. It's supposed to be that way. It's just kind of the nature of the beast when working with an inline setup. If you don't want to deal with something like that, you need to go to a designated unit. 2 new calipers in the back, its own supply, its own reservoir to a handbrake. If you don't want to do that, you got to deal with kind of them fighting each other. But I promise, once you get used to it, it's really not a big deal. Last thing you're going to need to do, if you want to do the exact setup I have, you may be able to move all this back if you want. I don't see how you're going to have room. But I had to trim out all the plastic here to accommodate the new handbrake throw. There's nothing underneath that. It's all open. I just left it here to take up some space until I can find some type of cover that looks better. So you're going to have to trim this, and you're going to have to trim your top trim piece as well. You're going to have to cut both of these out so you can clear everything. It doesn't look awful. If I can find some type of cover or something, or maybe even a rubber grommet that can go all the way to the top, it'll look a lot better. But I think it looks good, and I'm happy with it. So, there you go.